minaw mo basig indulge na kayo mo sa inyong gikaon din hawa na mo nakapaminaw. Okay, so we ended here with the ionic compounds, right? And then we learned yesterday now when you are naming ionic compounds, you just name directly the metal, and then the non-metal, i-change na to iyahang ending sa IDE. Okay? Kung ano siya, binary nga compound. Pero kung ternary, the name of the metal plus the name of the polyatomic ion. So, muna siya itong lesson yesterday. Now, let's move on sa molecular compounds. Humana to sa ionic. Ionic is between cation and anion. So, in this case, we have molecular compounds. They contain discrete molecular units. And mauni siya akong ginatawag class of compounds which contain non-metals only. So, it's between non-metal plus non-metal. And most of our molecular compounds are binary compounds, meaning they only contain two types of elements. So, isa ka non-metal and then another non-metal na naman. Ang tawag nato ha sa compounds na combination of non-metals kay molecular compounds. Pag naay metal, ionic compounds. So how do we name now our binary molecular compounds? Actually, similar lang to the naming of the binary compounds. We just name the element of the first element in the formula, and then the second element, ang iyahang ending, i-change gihapon nato into IDE. So we have an example here, HCl. Ang common name ni HCl, we can call this hydrochloric acid, but we can also call it hydrogen chloride. So ang iyahang second element, i-change sa IDE. And then we have HBr, hydrogen bromide. So name of the first element and then change the ending of the second element into IDE. And then SiC here, the silicon carbide. So pwede gihapon the same how do we name the ionic compounds? The same gihapon for the molecular compounds. But we have additional guidelines here. That's the time we use the prefixes. So I have given you the prefixes last week, the mono, di, tri, tetra, penta, hexa, hepta, octa, nona, and deca. So what is our guideline, or what are our guidelines here? The prefix mono may be omitted for the first element. So muna ako ang example last time, tong CO, we only call it carbon monoxide. So if the first element is only one atom, just like this one, isa lang talaga siya, we can omit mono from the name. Thus, CO starts with carbon only. No need to write monocarbon. Carbon lang yun na siya. So another example, we have PCl3. The first element here only has one atom. Waman kay makita din nga subscript. So we will omit the first, we will omit the mono na prefix. So diretso tayo with the name of the element, phosphorus. Okay, so thus the absence of a prefix for the first element means that there is only one atom of that element present in the molecule. So phosphorus lang ta diretso, and then Cl3, which means tatlo kabuok ang chloride. So butangan nato siya prefix na tri, and then let's have the chloride. So the ending here is still IDE. So this is always true for the second element class, whether we'll use the prefixes or not, as long as it is the second element, we will always change the ending into IDE. So phosphorus trichloride. That's the first guideline. And then the second guideline, for oxides, the ending A in the prefix is sometimes omitted. So I have also given this sa inyo ha, di ba? May instruction if the name of the element starts with a vowel like O, instead of penta, we'll just use pent. Okay? Or instead of tetra, we'll just use tetra. We can omit this one. Dili na ko siya masulat. Basta tet-r lang siya. And dili na nimo ibutang ang A. Pag vowel ang first letter sa name sa element. Pero pag consonant, that's the time we use the full prefix like penta and tetra or even hexa. So gamitan nato ng A pag consonant. So we have the example here, N2O4. N2 means dalawang nitrogen, so we call it dinitrogen. And then this is 4 oxygen. So our prefix for 4 is tetra, supposedly tetra, but since vowel man ang oxygen, so that is why we omit the letter A and diretso na to siya tetrox. And then mag-end siya sa IDE, so tetroxide. So this is again dinitrogen tetroxide. So we have other examples here on the screen as you can see. So we have, ayan. CO2, C is only one atom. So hindi na natin, tapos na itong carbon monoxide. So dito tayo sa CO2. C is only one atom. So no need to write mono. So diretso tayo kay carbon. Tapos dalawang oxygen. So di. And then diretso with the oxygen with an ending na IDE. So dioxide. This is also true for SO2. Sulfur. No mono ha, kaisa lang ka-atom, and dalawang oxygen, so dioxide. So again, kailan natin gamitin ang mga prefixes? Please make sure na it is between non-metal plus non-metal. Again, non-metal plus non-metal. SO3 is sulfur trioxide. NO2, isang nitrogen. So nitrogen diretso and then dalawang oxygen, dioxide. And then our example kanina, dinitrogen. And then instead of tetraoxide, we'll just omit A since this is a vowel here. So tetroxide siya. Ayan. And then we have here exceptions to the use of Greek prefixes na mga mono, di, tri are molecular compounds containing hydrogen. Again, most of our molecular compounds na merong hydrogen, hindi sila gumagamit ng prefixes. So, itong mga compounds natin containing hydrogen, many of them are called either by their common name or yung tinatawag natin na non-systematic names. Or yung mga names na hindi talaga makikita na meron siyang hydrogen in its chemical formula. So again, these are exceptions to the rule ha. Itong mga compounds na merong hydrogen, most of the time they don't follow the guidelines in using prefixes. So just like this one, B2H8, H6, this is boron here. This is supposedly diboron hexahydride, but we don't again usually use the prefixes pag merong hydrogen. So this is simply called diborane. So mo ginaiyahang pangalan class. All you need to do is to memorize na lang, memorize them na lang kay gamay lang man sila. Another one, CH4. We don't call this as carbon tetrahydride. Instead, we call it directly as methane. So they don't use the prefixes pag merong hydrogen. And then this one, wait lang. SiH4. So supposedly, di ba, we call it silicon tetrahydride. So hydrogen, tapos mag-end siya sa IDE. Pero this one is simply called as silane. The same thing with NH3. I believe you are familiar with ammonia. Ammonia talaga ang tawag sa kanya class. Hindi natin siya tinatawag na nitrogen trihydride. So ano lang ni siya, applicable for those compounds na merong hydrogen. The same thing with PH3. Instead of calling it phosphorus trihydride, we call it phosphine or phosphine. And then ito, diretso na ito, water class. Again, pag makakita kayo ng H2O, that's directly water. So, common name na kaagad yung ginagamit natin. Water. Instead of calling it dihydrogen monoxide. Again, instead of calling it dihydrogen, kay dalawang hydrogen, tapos isang oxygen. So, wait lang. Kaya nabasa. Monoxide. Instead of calling it like that, water na siya diretso. And then we have H2S. Instead of calling it dihydrogen, what is S? Sulfide. Ay, monosulfide. Kaya isa lang kabuo. Padugtong na lang. Instead of calling it dihydrogen monosulfide, diretso na siya hydrogen sulfide. So these are the exceptions to the rules. The compounds with hydrogen don't usually follow the Greek prefixes. I hope nasundan to siya. So we have here compounds. Pag ionic class ang inyong tandaan, naa siya'y cation, so naa'y positively charged na substance. Pwede siya metal or pwede siya polyatomic ion nga, ammonium. And then naapod siya'y anion nga part, pwede siya monoatomic, mostly mga non-metals na to, and pwede din polyatomic. So, kung cation has only one charge, so like mga alkali metals o alkaline earth metals na to, di ba atong ginahimo, just name the metal first, and the anion, ang iyahang ending sa name will be changed into IDE. Pero pag polyatomic ion siya, just name directly the polyatomic ion. Pero pag ang cation has more than one charge, how do we name it? I-name po nato ang metal, pero we have to indicate using a Roman numeral inside an open and closed parenthesis the charge, the specific charge of the metal, kung positive 2 ba siya or positive 3. And then the anion will be named also with an ending na IDE. Pag polyatomic ion, diretso na sa name ni polyatomic ion. That's how we name the ionic compounds. And then pag molecular compounds naman, ito yung mga compounds natin na combination of non-metal plus non-metal. So, ang pag-name niyan class, that's the time we use the prefixes. Mono, kung hangtod 10, deka. Tapos, ang ending gihapon sa name class, mag-end gihapon siya sa IDE. So, let us continue with our recitation. Sino yung hindi naka-recite kahapon? Kanino nga tayo nag-end? Kay JM. Am I right? Or natawag ko si Kathleen? Natawag kita kahapon, Kathleen?
Kay Kathleen po ata nag-stop, ma'am.
Yeah, kay Kathleen. So, dito na tayo kay Lindsay. So, Lindsay, give me the name of the compound that I will write in the screen. We have, wait lang, sagol na niya both ionic and molecular. Let me think first.
Chemical name po, ma'am.
Yeah, chemical name. Muna ko ipa-name sa inyo. This one, Lindsay there, Lindsay. can send your answer sa chat or pwede ra mo mag-unmute ha. Atong mga uban ko din ha nga wala nako gitawag sa recitation karon, you can answer there sa inyong papel and let's check later kung parehas tag-answer. Para ma-assess ninyo inyong sarili whether nakasabot mo aning naming or wala. What is our step for naming here? Number one, di ba? Kailangan i-check nyo muna if the given is between metal and non-metal or non-metal plus non-metal para maka-decide ta kung paano nato siya i-name. So, let's discuss it one by one. We have here, okay, sige. What is nitrogen? Metal or non-metal?
Non-metal, ma'am.
Non-metal po.
Non-metal. How about the oxygen?
Non-metal din po.
Okay, non-metal plus non-metal, ito siya class, meaning dito yan siya under sa molecular na compound. And unsa atong rules for naming? We will use the prefixes.
Prefixes po.
Prefixes.
But the last element will end with IDE.
IED.
IDE. Sige, so we will use the prefixes. You have there N2. What is the prefix for 2?
Di.
Dye po.
Okay, and then idugtong natin si nitrogen. So dinitrogen. And then how about for 7? What would be?
Hepta.
Hepta po, ma'am.
Okay.
Hepta po.
Are we going to use the hepta or the hep only?
Hep po.
Hep lang po.
Bakit?
Kasi
Vowel man ang O.
Okay. The element is oxygen. So it starts with O. So vowel yan siya. So hep lang. Ayaw ninyo apila ang A. And then remember the second element, ang iyahang ending is to be changed into IDE. That is why we call this oxide. So this is the correct answer, ha? Dinitrogen heptoxide. So nasabtan to kasi ito nag-answer. Lindsay?
Okay, ma'am, nasabtan na.
Okay. So the mga ginainyohang first nga himuon, identify first the elements whether it's between a metal and a non-metal or a non-metal and a non-metal para maka-decide ta what guidelines are we going to use. So this time nitrogen is non-metal, oxygen is non-metal, so we will be using the prefixes. Dinitrogen heptoxide. Questions about this? Kinsa pang wala nakasabot? Sige, kinsa ito? Si nag-end. Caballero. Mariam. Natawag ta kagahapon, Mariam? Wala, no? Si Mariam dire. Hello, Daine.
Opo, ma'am. Wala po gahapon, ma'am.
Okay, sige. Magipasunod ko man ni diri good sa participants. Wala si Mariam. Sige, Rugisa, wala ta ka na. Tawag hapon ka, nag-brown out sa inyo, no? Tama?
Yes po. Yes po, ma'am.
Okay, sige. How about this? You name this compound. Wala pa daw ang tawag. Sige, wait lang. Si ano lang sa Rugisa sa. Wait lang kayo nag-iisip ko.
Ma'am?
Ito. Who's talking?
Natawag ko?
Ito to. Isa nag-istorya. Hindi ako makita.
Si Maria, ma'am.
Si Mariam, unya na ka Mariam, si Regisa na lang sa.
Okay, ma'am. Nahulog na po sa among cut ang router, ma'am. Kaya na-off.
Ay, okay. Sige. Later na lang ka. Oops. Okay. FENO3 2. Rogisa. Okay lang ha kung mali or tama inyong answer. That is still credited sa inyo as participation. Pero I hope you will try para makasabot mo sa naming. While waiting, mag-CR sa ako kajut ha. Pag-answer sa din ha, Rogis, and then when I get back, I'll ask you sa imuhang answer. Okay? Manaka, Rogisa? Iron. Kung ano na question mark. Pag na-question mark, dili sigurado. Sige, nag-send po ang uban. Ang uban, iron 2 nitrate. Ang uban, iron 3 nitrate. So, let's see. So, again, ang first step is to identify what type of element ang nag-exist sa atuang sa itong compound. So, Fe. Fe class is a metal. So, metal ni siya class meaning directly, dili na gyud ta mo gamit aning prefixes. Kay metal man siya. So, in naming the metal, remember on sa atuang steps, name the metal first. So, the name of Fe is iron. Tapos, let's see if what type of metal is this, kung duha ba iyang charge or isa lang. Unsa ba, pila ka buk ang charge ni iron? Isa, duha?
Dalawa po.
Dalawa. So, nakita ninyo ning ato ang diagram diri sa screen. Cation has more than one charge. So, unsa daw ang steps sa naming? Name the metal first. Tapos, specify the charge of the metal cation with Roman numeral in parentheses. So, magbutang daw ta og parentheses. And we will specify here kung unsa ang charge ni iron. Kay duha man iyang charge. Tapos, NO3 is a polyatomic ion. So, if polyatomic an ion, use name of the anion. What is the name of NO3?
Nitrate po, ma'am.
Okay, very good. It's nitrate. So, please use your index cards din ha. Kung nahimo na ninyo. Now, ang kulang na lang ani is ang charge ni iron. So, ganyan akong gitudlo sa inyo ha. How to determine the charge ni iron.
Reverse, crisscross.
Reverse crisscross.
Okay, reverse crisscross nga ang ilahang subscript ibalik nato dito sa taas. Kaya di ba supposedly crisscross is going down. Ang mga charge nila, for example, like this, is gina-crisscross nato. Pero reverse ta, so ibalik nato si 2 dinhi. And then since wala may number dinhi, matic na siya class nga 1. And then automatic pud na siya nga positive ni nga side and negative dito sa pikas. Sa compound, always yun na siya positive ang iyahang first element. Katayon jud una ginabutang. So pag reverse crisscross nato, we will see here na positive 2 ay si iron. Kasi iron man class can be positive 2 or positive 3. So ang ibutang nato din here Roman numerals na 2. So this is the correct answer. Iron 2 nitrate. So tama man imuhang answer, Rugisa. Okay? Questions about this? Kinsa pa ang wala kasabot ani? Masignapay wala na kasabot ani. Let's have the next one. Sige, Mariam. Let's have the next one. How about this? Sige daw, Mariam. Paspasan ni Jemuel. Go, Jemuel. Laban lang yun. Paspas kayo maka-answer.
Ma'am, ano po? Ammonium phosphate.
Okay, so ang answer ni Mariam kay ammonium phosphate. Let's see if this is really ammonium phosphate. So the first thing to do is to identify the parts of our chemical formula. This is one part here. Pag isulod ganin na siya sa parenthesis class, automatic. Kasabay na sila. And take note, our cations can be metal or pwede po sila NH4, ammonium. So this NH4 class here is ammonium, meaning automatic class nga ionic kini siya nga compound. So we will not use the prefixes. So in naming, di ba, you just have to write the name of the cation. Cation na itong tawag sa iya, kaya dili man siya metal. So diretso na to ibutang iyang pangalan class ha, ammonium. Walay prefix, bisan pa og naa siya 3 na subscript. And then PO4, it's a polyatomic ion. So unsa ibutang daw, just use the name of the polyatomic ion. So PO4 is phosphate. So tama inyong answer, Mariam and Jemuel, na ammonium phosphate ni siya. So ay mo kalisang ha, basta pagkita ni sa chemical formula na lisang na din mo nga ngano man na siya. Always go back with the guidelines nga ako ang gihatag sa inyo ha, and you can use your periodic table and even your index card. So pag nakita gani ninyo na si NH4, ayun ang magtanaw sa inyong periodic table kay dili man ni siya single element. So dito ninyo siya pangitaas sa inyong polyatomic ion, and makita ninyo din ha nga ang iyang pangalan kay ammonium. So pag ions gani class ha, ions, cation and ions, ionic atong tawagan ng compound. So never gyud ta mo gamit og prefixes. Kahit na may subscript siya dyan. And then PO4, you can also look at your index cards there. Pangitaan ninyo si PO4, you can see there na iyang pangalan kay phosphate. So ammonium phosphate na iyahang name. Okay? Daghan ta ba kung wala na tawag? Let's see. Napa. Kabantod. And then Adolfo Kahilsot, Kalulong, and Harid. Okay, tawagon ta mo later kay napatay next. Napakoy next nga itudlo sa inyo ha. And that's the acids. So acids ha, let's talk about the acids. So when you say acids class, gina-describe nato na siya as substance that will give you hydrogen ions when dissolved in water. So ano daw ni siya? Acids, chemical that will give you hydrogen ions if dissolved in water. That's the definition of the acids. So formulas for acids contains one or more hydrogen atoms and at the same time meron din siyang anionic na group. So remember kagaya na ingon ko, pag naga ni hydrogen ang compound, most of the time, wala sila nag-follow atong guidelines nga akong gihatag sa inyo nga i-name ang element, tapos ang second element mag-end sa IDE. So, naay sariling guidelines when it comes to the acid. So, unsa ang guidelines ani? Anions whose names end in IDE forms the acid with a hydro prefix and an IC na ending. So tagaan ta mo ug example like this one, HCl. Are you familiar with HCl?
Hydrochloride, ma'am.
Hydrochloride.
Okay, let us see paano nato siya gina-name ha. Pag inganig daw class nga HCl na siya, ang start ana niya sa name naa jud na siya hydro. Again, na ay hydro. That's the prefix na ginagamit natin for acid. Tapos, ang next nga, ang isunod na to ana sa iyang name, kay ang name sa anion. Okay? Name sa anion. So, ang anion niya diri kay, di ba, si chlorine? Kay, di ba, ang charge ni chlorine kay -1. So, idugtong daw nato na siya here, class. Di ba, chloride, iyahang pangalan, no? Chloride. So, supposedly chloride na siya. Pero pag acid class, we will get rid of the IDE and instead, we will use the ending na IC. Okay? Wait lang. Okay. Sige, let us continue. So, this is now chloric, not chloride. Pag acid, this is applicable for acid ha. So, chloric. And then, ang name ana niya class always end with the word acid. So, ang tawag aning HCl now is hydrochloric acid. That's how you name the acid class. Hydrochloric acid. Any question with this? With this one? Are you familiar of what hydrochloric acid is? Common name of hydrochloric acid is muriatic acid.
Muriatic acid.
So mo na yung ginagamit din ha mag limpyo og CR. Yeah, hydrochloric acid na siya class or muriatic acid. But hydrochloric acid is also our gastric acid. Our acid sa stomach is also HCl. Gastric acid gihapon na siya. So, acid gihapon siya. So, for example, class, actually HCl can be named as hydrogen chloride, but it can be also named as hydrochloric acid because the presence of the hydrogen there will make it an acid. So, mo na nga, pag ibutang maguna siya sa water, it will release the hydrogen. And then remember, i-release na niya si hydrogen. And then remember, ang definition nato sa acid, it will give us hydrogen ion if dissolved sa water. So, this is a correct name, hydrogen chloride. But this is also a correct name, hydrochloric acid. Okay? Kasi acid siya if naa siya sa iyang liquid na state, but in gaseous or pure good nga liquid na state, HCl is a molecular compound called hydrogen chloride. Pag ibutang siya sa water, mo na siya mag-release siya og H plus and Cl ions. Mo na nga ginatawag nato siya hydrochloric acid. So either of the two names kay tama na siya. Now, that is true for hydrochloric acid ha, mo na iyahang name. So another example before ta mag-move on sa oxo acids. How about this one? HI, kana lang ang nakabutang. HI. What do you think is the name for the HI? Pwede mo mag-raise og hand, labi na tong mga wala na ako na tawag kahapon o karon. Yes, Mariel. How do we name the HI? Yes, we can. Yes, Princess. Pwede pud nato siya tawagon og hydrogen iodide. Hydrogen iodide. Kay hydrogen tapos di iodine, mag-end siya sa IDE. So, hydrogen iodide. Pero yes, tama po na siya, Princess, nga kung acid na siya, since there is the presence of hydrogen there, pag acid siya, how do we name it? Hydro na prefix. Tapos, the anion, so iodide, pero di ba ilisan nato iyahang ending instead of IDE, we'll make it IC. So this is hydro, tapos idugtong natin si iodic, and then ang last part sa iyang name will have the acid. So this is correct, this is also correct. Kasi depende if we are referring to the acid substance or the molecular compound. So tama na inyo mga gisend nga answer, hydrogen iodide or pwede po siya hydroiodic acid. Paano kung ano, this one? HBr. Sige, tama na siya. Ano na yung question mark? Pwede siya class, yes, hydrogen. Pwede siya hydrogen. Tapos bromine man ino, pero second man siya class nga element. So, ilisan na to iyang name o ide. So, hydrogen bromide. Tama na siya, hydrogen bromide. Pero paano kung akong pangutana sa inyo iyahang name as an acid? Again, iyahang name as an acid. Paano gani ang name sa acid? Mag-start ka sa hydro. Hindi ka sure. Sige, hydro. Muna siyang first good ha, basta acid name niya. Tapos, ang isunod na to, iyahang anion. Iyahang anion, negatively charged. Diba si bromine? This is positively charged. So, bromide. Pero instead of bromide, we'll get rid of the IDE. Tanggalon nato ni, and then ipalit nato si IC. And then idugtong nato siya diri sa hydro. So this will become hydrobromic
acid.
acid. Okay, hydrobromic acid. Nakuha na ba? Sige daw, kinsa pa to kung wala na tawag be.
Harid daw, ma'am.
Harid. Sige, Sharbea. Tapos katong uban later na sa oxo acid. HF,
Sure,
Sharbea.
nag-chat na po, sure.
Ay, nag-chat na ka.
Oo. Nag-answer ko sa hydrogen bromide.
Yeah, hydrogen bromide, tapos gisundan ni mo og hydrobromic acid. So that is correct. Kinsa pa tong wala na ko natawag. Mariel, yes Mariel. What will be the possible names for this?
HF, ma'am.
Oh, HF. Kanistas, HF.
Hydrofluoric acid, ma'am.
Okay, very good. So you can call this, una, pwede siya hydrogen fluoride. So ilisan man nato fluorine man ni di ba, hydrogen and then fluorine. So ilisan nato iyahang ending sa IDE. Now kung himuon nato siya acid class, we will start again with hydro, and then next will be the anion fluoride, pero let's get rid of the IDE and then ilisan nato siya IC. So this is now hydrofluoric and then the word acid. Ayaw kalimot sa fluoric is FLUO para dili wrong spelling wrong. Dili po siya fluor ha. It's fluoric. Fluoric acid. Kay sensitive kayo atong Schoology sa spelling. Isa lang ka letter nga mali nimo, malian na mo dayon ni Schoology. So fluoric, hydrofluoric acid. Nakuha na siya, that is for the acid. So paano ninyo mabalaan kung acid siya? Na siya'y presence ni hydrogen.
Hydrogen.
Tapos si hydrogen ha is nauna siya. So siya ang positively charged ion. Nauna siya like HCl or HI, HF, HBr. Pag nauna siya, that's an acid. So you can either name them using their systematic name or their acid name. So acid name nila na ay hydro, followed by the name of the anion, pero ang ending dapat IC, and then followed by the word acid. Okay, now let's move on. We have here the oxoacids. Again, we have the oxoacids here. So unsa pud ning oxoacids? These are acids class na meron pa ring hydrogen kasi that's the common thing about acids na ay hydrogen. Pero nga gitawag siya oxoacid kasi there is the presence of oxygen and another element which is the central element kay naa siya sa center. So tulo ni siya ka elements class pag moingon kag oxoacids. It will always start with hydrogen, tapos we have here a central element and always na siya mag-end with oxygen. Again, ang tawag natin is oxoacids. That's the formula for oxoacids. So we have the following 5 common acids na tinatawag natin as oxoacids. We have the carbonic acid. So kung nakita ninyo, na siya hydrogen, tapos it has carbon as the central element in between, and then it will end with oxygen. That's the same with the chloric acid. The central element is chlorine here. So nagihapon siya H and O. Nitric acid also, H and O, the central element is nitrogen. And phosphoric acid, the central element is phosphorus. So sila class, ang mga oxoacids, they are different when it comes to their central elements. But they are similar with the presence of the first element na hydrogen and last element na oxygen. And that is also true with the sulfuric acid. Pero how do we name them? Naapod tayo system for this, for the naming. Wait lang. So, unsa daw atong guidelines? Often 2 or more oxoacids have the same central atom but a different number of oxygen atoms. So, starting with our reference oxoacids whose names all end with IC, we use the following rules to name this compound. Wait lang ha. Unsay himuon nato ani. These are some simple acids. Ang iyahang naming ani dahil baliktad din akong slide, dapat dito ni sa simple acid kaysa oxoacids ta mag concentrate karon. So ani ni siya pag name sa oxoacids class. Let's start with H2CO3. Again, H2CO3. Pag makakita mo ani automatic makaingon jud dapat mo oxoacid ni siya, na siya hydrogen, na siya oxygen, and then na siya central atom. Now in naming the oxoacids, we will just have the acid as the second word Always gina siya second word ang acid. Tapos ang first word class will be the name of the central atom. Name of central atom plus ang ending niya nga IC. Again, ang ending niya kay IC. So like H2CO3, ang iyang central element is carbon. So that's the name of the central atom, carbon. And then dugtong nato ang IC and then the word acid. Thus the name of H2CO3 is carbonic acid. Okay? Pero actually, nag-originate dyan ni si carbonic acid kay carbonate. Diba this CO3, look at your class? Look at your index card there. CO3 is carbonate. Diba? Carbonate na siya. Ang himuon lang manggod ninyo, ana, supposedly yun, instead of carbonate, you get rid of the 8 and ilisa ninyo siya IC, and then you add the word acid. So carbonic acid na siya instead of carbonate pag naan na siya presence ni hydrogen. Nakuha? Or nalibog? So let me give you another example.
Another example pa daw, ma'am.
Okay, sige. This one. H2SO4. How do we name this again?
Sulfuric acid, ma'am.
Okay. So, tanawan ninyo inyong polyatomic ion. Ano sa pangalan aning SO4? Yung index card. What is SO4 again? SO4 is sulfate. So what are we going to do? Get rid of this ATE. Instead, IC. Itong gamiton. Ay, sorry. Sulfur, dapat na siya. Okay. Mag-end na siya sa IC, pero kumplituhon na to iyang name ha, sulfur. And then, i-dugtong si acid. So, we call this sulfuric acid. Or you can use, para dili mo maglibog, you can use my first guideline. You start here with the central element. The central element is sulfur. And then, dugtungan nato siya IC. And then, the word acid. So, sulfuric acid. Now, another example, we have the, wait lang. Ayan, another example, HNO3. So, oxoacid gihapon kasi you have the hydrogen, the oxygen, and the central atom na nitrogen. Paano po nato ni siya i-name? So, pwede ninyo gamitin akong guideline. You start with the central element. The central element is nitrogen. Pero what are we going to do? We will get rid of the ending and ilisa nato siya og IC. So, this will become now nitric acid. Again, nitric acid na siya. That's how we name our oxo acid. So, paano class kung last example? HClO4. Ay, O3 lang daw, O3. O3. HClO3. Okay.
Chloric acid po.
Chloric acid, ma'am.
We will start here also with the chlorine. So, chlor. Diba chlorine dapat na siya? Let's get rid of the INE and ilisa nato siya IC. So, this will become chloric. And then, i-add natin yung word na acid. So, chloric acid. So, yes, tama. That's how you name the oxo acids. questions so far? This is a 3 hours na subject. I know we need to take a break. So, ani na lang. Mag-break sa ta para makakaon ng uban. Dilihilab ta ng first and last na element. We'll just use the central element. Kay kaning H o kaning O, that will give us a hint na acid siya. Oxo acid to be specific because of the presence of hydrogen, and then oxo because of the oxygen. So their name will depend on the central atom. So muna siya nga akong mga examples gaina, di ba? Ang mga central atoms lang atong i-identify, tapos ilisa na to ilahang ending with IC, tapos idugtong natin yung name na acid. That's how are we going to do the name of the oxo acids. So we will continue kasi this will be getting complicated after. This one is ano manggod ka ng pinaka-base lang niya nga oxo acid. Maglahi-lahi manggod na iyang number. Like HClO3 will become HClO4. So I will be teaching you after we'll have the break on how to name if mag-change ang number ni oxygen. So mag-break sa ta para makakaon ang uban and makapahuway ang uto kadali. So the time is 12:12 plus 20 minutes. Please be back at 12 dili na lang bungkagon 12:35. Okay? Again, please be back at 12:35. So let us continue class. After the oxo acids na apatay, oxo acids man good na the same ilahang central atom. Wait lang. Ano man ni? Dili man siya masulat. Ay, masulat din. Okay. Sige. Like this one, HClO3, HClO4. We even have HClO2, and we have also HClO. So again, these are all considered oxo acids. You have your hydrogen there, you also have the oxygen, and the problem now is they have the same central atom. Sige, Mariam. Again, the problem now is they have the same central atom. So what are we going to do? Ang inyong tandaan, class, if you are if you encounter this type of oxo acid, you go back to your index cards. Again, you go back to your index cards and look for the polyatomic ion that ends with 8. Again, look for the polyatomic ion that ends with 8. So pangitaon ninyo, class, which among this one, which among them, ClO3, ClO4, ClO2, or ClO? Saan sa kanila ang nag-end sa 8 dyan sa kanilang pangalan? Let us see.
O4 po.
ClO3 or ClO4?
O3.
Okay. Chlorate ha, I'm talking about the name that
Chlorate.
ends with 8. Oo.
O3 po.
O3. So ang inyong tandaan, class, if siya ang nag-end sa chlorate when it comes to the polyatomic ion, this one is our base acid. Meaning siya yung tinatawag nating chloric acid. Okay? So sa kanya tayo mag-base. 'Di ba ang tinuro ko sa inyo when before our break, kung ano yung central acid, ganun yung name niya, palitan lang natin ng IC na ending tapos idugtong natin yung word na acid. Pero kung magkaparehos na silang lahat na HCl, Cl pa rin ang kanilang central atom, always remember, go back to your index cards, look for the polyatomic ion that ends with 8. So alin sa kanila dyan ang nag-end sa 8? Di ba si ClO3? So siya yung pangalan niya is yung chloric acid talaga. Manin yung palatandaan ha nga siya ang chloric, siya ang katong magsunod sa guideline nato na name of the central atom, change the ending with IC and idugtong yung name na acid. Nakuha or nalibog? Any question? Wala?
Ma'am, pakiulit good ma'am.
Okay, let's repeat the explanation. Sige, later ha. 'Di ba? We have oxo acids here. 4 sila kabuok. Now, ang akong gitudlo sa inyo ha before ta nag-break, pag oxo acid, example this one, kung ano yung central atom, ito yung gagamitin natin na name. So this is chlorine, pero get rid of the ending and ilisan siya og IC, and then idugtong natin yung word na acid. That is class the guidelines. Ako ang unang gitudlo sa inyo. Pero how about this one? Parehas man sila tanan chlorine ang ilahang central atom. So paano nato sila i-name? Ang ako ang i-suggest sa inyo ha, para dili mo maglibog, go back to your index cards and look for the polyatomic ion nga naay chlorine, naay oxygen, pero 8 iyahang ending sa name. Again, naay chlorine, naay oxygen, pero 8 ang ending sa name. So, mo ito kung pangutan na kagaina. So, among the ClO3, ClO4, ClO2, or ClO, alin dyan yung 8 ang ending sa name? Meaning, I'm talking about chlorate. Sige daw, look at your index cards.
ClO3 ma'am.
Okay, ClO3. So, kung siya ang ClO3 class, ito yung magiging name niya. Yung name ng central element ending with IC and then acid. Siya ang mahimong base. Again, siya yung magiging base acid natin. So tatawagin lang natin siyang chloric acid. Now kasi ganito, mag-change yung name niya kung either madagdagan or mabawasan ang oxygen. Ang tandaan ninyo, pag galing sa base acid, this is our base acid here, the chloric acid. Pag ang oxygen madagdagan ng isa, yung pangalan niya ay dudugtungan ng per as prefix, mag-i-end pa rin siya ng IC, and then meron pa ring word na acid. So ito, from 3, nadagdagan ng 1. So this will now be called per. And then this same. Okay, chloric and then acid. So that's perchloric acid. Yan yung rule natin. So always start with the base acid. Hanapin nyo muna yung base acid natin. So paano malaman na siya ang base acid? Tingnan nyo class yung polyatomic ion. Like this one, ClO3, polyatomic ion yan siya. Hanapin nyo alin dyan yung ang pangalan niya nag-end sa 8. Again, nag-end siya sa 8. So, siya yung magiging base acid. So, chloric acid siya. So, pag madagdagan ng isa ang oxygen niya from O3 naging O4, ang pangalan ng acid ay dudugtungan natin ng prefix na per. Kaya ang tawag sa HClO4 is perchloric acid. Now, the next one. Paano naman kung nabawasan ng isa? This is our base acid here. So let's compare the two. This is HClO3. This is HClO2. Nabawasan siya ng isa. So ano daw ang ating guideline? Removal of one atom from the IC na acid or the base acid here. The acid is now called OUS acid, meaning instead of the IC na ending, papalitan natin siya ng OUS. So for chloric, tanggalin natin itong IC and papalitan natin siya ng OUS. So this becomes now, this one is named chlorous acid. Okay? Chlorous acid. Tapos, removal of 2 atoms. So ito pa rin yung base natin. So let's compare. This one is HClO. So natanggalan ng 2 oxygen. So paano daw natin siya i-name? Magkakaroon tayo ng prefix na hypo. So hypo yung start ng pangalan niya. And idudugtong natin yung pangalan ng base element or yung central element, pero ang ending niya ay OUS. So like this one, chlorus. And then still you have the acid. So that's how you name the oxoacids with the same central element. Ang kaibahan lang nila is yung number of oxygen. So, medyo confusing, no? I hope nag-take note kayo. And then we will have another na example. Wait lang. Let me have... Wait lang ha. Okay, akong dagdagan. Akong slide. Blank slide so that we'll have more space to work pagdating sa example. Ayan, so let me give you another example. How about this? Ano ba natin sila i-name? Parehas silang oxoacids. Parehas silang nitrogen ang central element, but they have different numbers of oxygen. Ang isa 3, ang isa 2. So, anong una natin gagawin? What is the first step here? We have to look for the base acid. Again, we have to look for the base acid. How do we know that this is the base acid? The step is...
Pag-end siya ng AP, ma'am.
Okay, go
APE.
back. Yeah, APE. So go back to your index card and look for the polyatomic ion which name ends with ATE. So in this case, this is NO. So hanapin nyo dyan, class, sa list nyo ng polyatomic ions, alin dyan yung may N at saka may O, pero ang ending ng pangalan niya ay 8. So ano yung nakita nyo dyan? NO. Alin ang 8? Alin ang 8 ang ending sa name?
Nitrate.
O3.
NO3
NO3.
called the nitrate. So, di ba pag 8 ang ending ng name, ano yung magiging pangalan niya?
Nitric acid po.
So, the name of the base element is the name.
Nitric acid.
Okay, very good. The name of the central atom, and then change the ending with IC. So, instead of nitrate, mahimo ni siya og nitric class or nitrogen man ni. So, instead of nitrogen, let's change the ending with nitric and add the word acid. So, ito, siya man ang NO3. So, siya yung nitrate class. This will become now the nitric acid. Okay. So what will be the name of NO2 now? -1. Unsa gani kung -1 from the base? What will be the ending?
OUS.
OUS. So ano na ang pangalan ng HNO2?
Nitrous acid po, ma'am.
Okay,
Nitrous acid.
nitrous acid. Again, nitrous acid. That's how you name that's how you name that's how you name oxoacids that have the same central elements. Start with the base acid and whose polyatomic ions name ends with 8. So let me give you an example again para ma-practice. So the mag-erase. Ayan, another example. How about this one? Sige, kayo muna para ma-practice nyo dyan. Ma-identify nyo alin yung base acid natin. Thus, mag-end siya sa IC. Ano kasi yung rule natin dyan, class? Kapag polyatomic ion niya nag-end sa 8, ang ending ng acid niya will be IC. But if the polyatomic ion ends with I, ang ending ng kanyang acid ay OUS. Okay? Let's have the, yes, Mariam.
Ano po? CPO4 po yung base acid.
Okay, si PO4 ang base acid. Kasi anong pangalan ni PO4? We call this?
Phosphate.
Phosphate po.
Phosphate. So siyang nag-end sa 8. So definitely this is phosphorus here. The central element, we will get rid of the ending. Instead, i-add natin si IC plus the word acid. So this is now the phosphoric, take note, phosphoric acid. So hindi ka basta-bastang maglalagay ng per class ha, kasi baka malito kayo. Yung first natin na example, HClO4 becomes perchloric acid. Pero that is not the case always. Hindi ibig sabihin na 4 ang kanyang oxygen, per na ang start ng name niya. Always go back, class, sa polyatomic ion that ends with 8, and that will be our base acid. We call it phosphoric acid. Now, -1. So, -1. What will be the ending pag -1 from PO4 magiging PO3?
OUS.
US po.
OUS.
Phosphorus.
Named as phospho, and take note, OUS
S.
acid. So this is phosphorus acid. This is the phosphoric acid. Nakuha yon?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, sige. Another one. Sino pa yung hindi naka-recite? Sige, Natasha. Natasha, you name this. So, pareha sila ha, sulfur yung central atom. Sige, Natasha for the H2SO4 and Melody for the H2SO3.
Ang H2SO4 po is sulfuric acid.
Okay, your answer here is sulfuric acid. How about Melody sa H2SO3? Ano yung nakuha mo dyan?
Sulfurous acid, ma'am.
Sulfurous acid. Sige, let us check if these two are correct. Now, SO4 and SO3, if you look at your index cards there, alin dyan ang tinatawag na sulfate?
Yung
SO4.
po.
SO4.
SO4.
So SO4 yung may 8. That is why class, this is correct. Siya yung mag-i-end ng IC. So uric acid. And then -1 tayo. Kung -1, OUS siya ang ending. So this is also correct. Sulfurous acid. That's how you name oxoacids with the same central elements. Questions about this? Wala. So ito siya class ang other examples of the oxoacids here. Wait lang ha. I need to write sa screen. These are other examples. So itong IDE, alam na natin to, pag single element lang siya, mag-end talaga yan siya sa IDE. But for this example, fluorine tayo, FO. This is FO here. This is FO2. This is FO3. And this is FO4. So kung naging acid sila class, this will become HFO. Ito magiging HFO2. Ito magiging HFO3. And this one is HFO4. Meron ba sa period ay sa index card na fluorate dyan nakalagay or wala? Merong fluorate? Fluorate class sa index cards ninyo? Wala, meron? Or wala ninyo nasali? So si fluorate, okay, si fluorate class is the FO3. Kaya ito yung tatawagin natin na, ano yung pangalan ng acid? Basta 8 ang ending ng polyatomic ion?
Fluoric acid.
Okay, very good. Fluoric acid. Okay, fluoric acid. Basta ang kanyang polyatomic ion ay nag-i-end sa 8 like this one. FO3 siya, ang fluorate. So, ang name ng acid niya na HFO3 will be ending with IC. So, fluoric acid. Kung -1, gaya nito, naging FO2 siya. Ano na yung magiging pangalan ni acid, which is HFO2? Ano na dapat ang pangalan ni acid?
Fluorous.
Fluorous. Very good. This is fluorous acid. Now, ito pa lang yung na-practice natin, 'di ba? Ang base tapos -1. Paano kung -2? From 3 naging 1 na lang. 3 minus 2 is 1. So kaya naging HFO na lang siya. Paano yung naming nito? Ano nga yung tinuro ko?
Hypofluorous.
Okay, very good. Hypo, tapos the fluorous. Hypofluorous acid. Pero paano kung +1 sa base? This one is our base here. +1, naging O4 siya instead O3. HFO4.
Perfluoric acid.
Okay, this is the time we'll use the per, pero ang ending niya is IC. So, perfluoric acid. That's how you name yung example kasi natin kanina, this is the chlorate here. So, kung HClO3 siya, naging acid siya, ito yung magiging chloric acid natin. Kasi ClO3 is the chlorate. Tapos pag mag -1, ang ending niya, this will become HClO2 as an acid. Ang ending will become OUS. Muna itong first example, kagaina. So mahimo na siya chlorous acid. Tapos -2, 3. This is 3 here for the base acid. Naging isa na lang ang oxygen. So this will become HClO. So pag isa na lang kay -2, this time the name of the acid will start with hypo, tapos mag-end siya sa OUS and idugtong natin si acid. Okay? And then we have the plus 1. So from ClO3 naging ClO4 siya. So kung ang acid niya is will be the formula HClO4. Pag name natin kapag ganito na plus 1, that's the time we use per. And then ang ending ay IC. Okay, so perchloric acid. So that is also true with the bromide and the iodide. Hanapin muna natin yung nag-end sa ATE or sa 8 and yun yung maging base acid natin. Pag plus 1 sa oxygen, gamitin nyo yung per, pero mag-end pa rin siya sa IC. Pag minus 1 from the base acid, the ending will become OUS. And pag minus 2 na from the base acid, from the base acid, that's the time you use the prefix hypo, pero mag-end pa rin siya sa OUS. And then acid pa rin. Okay? Questions about oxoacids, class?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes
Yes.
po. Pag 3 po ang atom ng polyatomic ion po, ma'am, ibig sabihin ATE na talaga yung end, yung suffix niya, ma'am.
No. Dili siya always like that. Kay example, SO4. Diba? What's the name of SO4?
Sulfate po, ma'am.
Sulfate. So, not all the time na pag 3 ang oxygen, yun yung mag-end sa ATE. The same thing with the PO4.
Phosphate.
Pag PO4, this is the phosphate. So that is the reason why you always go back with the polyatomic ion and then hanapin nyo yung ang name niya nag-end sa ATE para siya yung magiging base acid natin. Whether oxygen ay 4 oxygen man yan or 3 oxygens, basta 8 ang ending ng name niya, siya pa rin yung base acids natin, class. So marami lang acid kasi na O3 yung ending pero siya yung 8. Pero meron din kasing 4. May possibility na mag-minus 3 siya, ma'am. Pag mag-minus 3 siya, what do you mean minus 3? Example, sa HClO3, minus 3, meaning wala ka ng oxygen. HCl na lang ito. Anong pangalan ng HCl? Hydrochloric acid.
Acid.
So may acid pa rin tayo kasi you still have the hydrogen pero wala na siyang oxygen. Hindi na siya oxoacid. Ang tawag natin dito, simple acid. Okay? Ang tawag natin sa kanya ay simple acid. Simple acid na siya. Tapos yung current na existing natin na oxoacid, ano lang talaga siya, class? Plus 1 sa base, pwede siya minus 1, pwede siya minus 2. Hanggang dyan tayo for oxoacids. If oxoacids yung dinidiscuss natin. Pag natanggalan kasi siya ng oxygen, as in naubos talaga yung oxygen, class, hindi na yan siya oxoacid, simple acid na lang. Kasi meron pa rin siyang hydrogen. So the rules in naming the oxoanions or anions of the oxoacids are as follows. So when all the hydrogens are removed from the IC acid, the anion's name ends with 8. So partner gid na siya, class. 8 is partnered with IC. Meaning if the acid ends with IC, class, ang polyatomic ion na partner niya always nag-end sa 8. Just like sulfuric acid. Again, sulfuric acid. If we remove all the oxygen in the sulfuric acid, H2SO4, I mean, we remove the hydrogen, if we remove the hydrogen, what is left? SO4. And this is called the sulfate. So yun kasi yung rulings natin dyan. Before si oxoacid ma-produce, galing siya kay polyatomic ion. So ulitin ko para mas klaro. So we have H2SO4. Diba ang pangalan nito ay sulfuric acid. Now, if we remove the hydrogen, what is left is SO4. And SO4 is named as sulfate. So always yan siya partner ang IC and ang 8. And always din partner ang OUS, just like H2SO3. This is called sulfurous acid. Kay -1 man, -1, 4, naging 3 na lang. So mag-end na siya sa OUS. Always din partner klase OUS kay pagtanggalan natin siya ng hydrogen, what is left here is SO3. So look at your index cards. Diba ang pangalan ni SO3 ay sulfite. So partner din klase OUS and CI. Pag tinanggalan mo ng hydrogen yung acid na nag-end sa OUS, ang maiiwan na ion, ang pangalan niya mag-end sa I. Ito, 8, ang partner niya ay IC. So pag IC ang ending ng name ng acid, pag tinanggalan mo siya ng hydrogen, ang ion niya na maiiwan ay 8 ang ending. So 8 siya. Sulfuric acid will become sulfate. Nakuha yon? O na ilahang pag-partner-partner ha? 8 is to IC, OUS is to ITE. So SO3, look at your index cards there. SO3 is named as sulfite. Okay? Now, baliktad ito siya class. Kanina yung tinatanggal and dinadagdagan natin is yung oxygen. This time, pwede din natin bawasan si hydrogen. So for example, H3PO4 is named as phosphoric acid. Pero there are chemical reactions class na matatanggalan siya ng hydrogen, magiging H2PO4 na lang siya. Pero meron yan siyang negative sign dito. If this is the case, we will go back to the naming since naming natin sa compounds na hindi na siya acid. This will be named as dihydrogen phosphate. Again, still PO4 pa rin naman kasi siya, pero meron siyang dalawang hydrogen. So dihydrogen, and then we have the phosphate. So we will use class the prefixes here because remember, hydrogen is not a metal. It's a non-metal. Partnered lang siya with polyatomic ion. And then, kung tatanggalan pa siya ng another pa na hydrogen, so magiging HPO4, negative 2 na siya, ang tawag na natin sa kanya, hydrogen phosphate na lang kasi isang hydrogen na lang ang natira. Pero kung lahat ng hydrogen tatanggalin natin, syempre PO4 na lang ang maiiwan. And di ba polyatomic ion yan siya na ang pangalan ay phosphate. So merong mga reactions talaga na ganyan class. Either we remove the hydrogen or we add or remove the oxygen from our oxo anion. Pero this happens sa mga chemical reaction lang. This one, sa mga chemical reactions. Sa quizzes and sa exam, ang ipapaname ko lang sa inyo, ionic compounds, molecular compounds, simple acids, and oxo acids. I will no longer include this one, kaning magtanggal ka og hydrogen. Kasi again, that only happen during the chemical reaction. So wala pa naman ta nag-topic og chemical reactions. Okay? So these are names of oxo acids and their oxo anion. So si perchloric acid, remember, pagtanggalin natin yung kanyang hydrogen, ang ending ng pangalan niya will become 8. Pero take note kasi may per siya dyan, sir. So perchlorate. Yung chlorate lang talaga, yung galing class sa base acid natin na chloric acid. So chlorate siya. Pag chlorous acid, di ba ang partner ng OUS ay ite, so chlorite. Pero kung hypochlorous acid, ite pa rin siya, pero isalin nyo yung prefix na hypo. Okay, so that's it for the oxo acid. So we are done with this also. So how about naming of bases since we are done with the acids? Ang acids class may hydrogen. Paano yung bases? Our inorganic bases do contain hydroxide ions. Again, ang mga bases natin, especially if they are dissolved in water, they will give the hydroxide ions or the OH negative. So what are the examples of our bases? The NaOH, KOH, BaOH2. May hydroxide talaga sila, class. So the naming also follows, class, the ionic compounds na naming. Kasi this is metal, this is metal, this is also metal. Ang ano lang, ang palatandaan nyo lang na base siya is meron siyang kasamang OH. So the naming is the same thing, just name the metal like sodium and then followed by the name of the OH which is hydroxide. So that is also true for potassium hydroxide and barium hydroxide. So simple lang ang naming ng ating bases kasi magpa-follow pa rin siya sa rules natin sa ionic compounds. Meron lang tayong exception. Again, meron tayong exception sa bases na may base tayo na walang OH sa kanyang chemical formula. And that is the ammonia. Again, that is class the ammonia. Ammonia class is a basic substance. Wala siyang OH. Pero if we test class the pH of ammonia, it is really basic or alkaline. So si ammonia kasi is a molecular compound. So molecular compound siya, 'di ba pag molecular non-metal, so nitrogen here is non-metal and hydrogen is also non-metal. So hindi siya nagfa-follow doon sa hydroxide. Pero actually bakit siya gi-classify as base? Kasi if ammonia class is pina-react natin sa water, it will give the ammonium ion and the OH. So you will have the OH gihapon na ma-form here when you react ammonia and water. So again, classified pa rin siya as base. Pero again, di ba exception ito kanina sa sinabi ko, meron siyang hydrogen. So pag hydrogen kasi na non-metal plus non-metal, hindi nagpa-follow sa prefixes. So hindi natin siya tinatawag na nitrogen trihydride. Instead, we just call NH3 as ammonia. Ammonia talaga ang pangalan niya, class. And then we have the hydrates. So ang ibig sabihin ng hydrates, class, these are chemicals na meron silang water molecules trapped in their kabuuan class na molecule. I mean, example, you have the particle here of your chemical substance. So in between there is na-trap na water molecule. So ang tawag niyan ay hydrate. So minsan class sa mga chemical reactions, makikita mo sila. For example, this one, BaCl2, tapos merong dot and then 2H2O. Ang ibig sabihin yan, in the molecules of the barium chloride, merong na-trap class na dalawang molecules ng water. So ang magiging pangalan yan, the same thing. Kung paano natin pinapangalanan si ionic compounds, ganun pa rin. Barium, since barium is a metal, and then chlorine will become chloride. Pero ang magbabago lang dito kasi since may water siya nakasali sa kanyang structure, dadagdagan natin yung pangalan niya. And we will be using prefixes for the water molecule. Kagaya nito, dalawa. So, ang tawag natin dyan sa prefix ay di, and then water is called hydrate. So, BaCl2.2H2O is correctly called as barium chloride dihydrate. So, ganun natin siya tinatawag kapag meron water molecule sa kanyang molecule nakabuuan. The same thing with this one, copper 2 sulfate. This is CuSO4. And then, ano daw ang nakalagay? Meron siyang 5 water molecules associated in it. So this is 5H2O. Thus, if we name this, copper pa rin. And then remember, dalawa yung charges ni copper. So this is copper 2 sulfate pa rin. Ang idadagdag lang natin yung water. And 5, for 5, our prefix is penta. And then we will call water as hydrate. Thus, we call this copper 2 sulfate pentahydrate. This is now the difference. This is actually CuSO4 5H2O. And this is the pure CuSO4. Muna ilahang kalahian. Pag nana siya water sa iyahang associated sa iyahang molecule, it will turn into blue. Tapos if we will get rid of the water, it will turn into white. So paano natin makuha yung water dyan? Ipapa-evaporate natin yung water. Meaning, we will heat the copper sulfate pentahydrate. So ganun lang yung naming natin sa hydrates. I think this is the last one. So hindi na ako nagbigay ng quiz sa inyo. Di ba nagsabi ako kahapon na magbibigay ako ng quiz. Pero no, I will not give a quiz na. Concentrate na lang tayo sa pag-learn ng ating naming. Questions so far?
None, ma'am.
None, ma'am.
Okay. So
That
ito
po,
yung
ma'am.
ito yung mga ano natin class, common systematic names of some compounds, and sa gitna yung common name nila. So ang systematic name talaga ni water is dihydrogen monoxide, pero we don't really use that. Alangan mo palit ka sa inyong tindahan din ha, ingon ka nga palit daw kog dihydrogen monoxide. We don't use that. We just use the common name. So water is still water. Next, NH3 is ammonia. That's trihydrogen nitride or ammonia. Ammonia lang talaga ang tawag natin sa kanya. And then carbon dioxide. The solid carbon dioxide is commonly known as the dry ice. So muna nang ginapausok-usok ninyo pag naagani performance sa stage, ng mga concert nga nagausok-usok ang stage, muna siya. Si carbon dioxide nga solid, tapos himuon siya gas. So dry ice ang tawag, ana. So be familiar with examples lang naman ito. These are their systematic names and common names nila. Like this one, this is actually sodium bicarbonate, or we can call it sodium hydrogen carbonate. This is most commonly known as our baking soda. Yan lang. So questions about this naming? Napay wala na sabtan dito. Sa exam na lang ta class, I will have more of that sa exam. Ito, this is just introduction to organic compounds. So remember ha, itong mga organic compounds do contain carbons in their chemical formula. And most of our organic compounds class are combination of carbon and hydrogen. That is why we call them hydrocarbons. So again, ato ang most of our organic compounds are combination of carbon and hydrogen. We call them hydrocarbons, and most of them are used as fuels for domestic and industrial heating. Para saan ang atong ginagamit? Butane, and other types gases pang ginagamit nato for heating. Mga organic compounds na sila, so wala pa nato sila na-appeal sa atuang naming. So napo na sila systems of naming nila class, pero I will no longer discuss this one. Mag-concentrate sa inorganic, tapos next time na ta mag-organic para dili sila magsagol-sagol sa inyong utok. Murag mas lisod gyud to kung magsagol-sagol sila. Kay naapoy system of naming si organic compounds, and very different compared to the inorganic. So dira lang ta mag-end kay inorganic. Okay? So questions? Kinsang wala naka-recite? Napa ba wala naka-recite? Natawag na nako.
Ma'am, gusto ko ni JM mag-recite, ma'am.
Mag-recite pa ka, JM. Nanubra na yung grado eh.
Ganahan ka siya sa lesson karon, ma'am.
Uy, sige lagi magpangati. Kusog ba ang ulan sa mga atik?
Wala ulan dali.
So, ang inyuhang exam class sa laboratory, I don't know if moabot siya 80. Dili mo ko ang magbuhat sa exam sa lab. Ang teacher sa group 2, again, ang teacher sa group 2, siya ang magbuhat sa exam sa lab, si Ma'am Perlado. And ako ang mubuhat sa lecture. So wala ko kabalo kung nahuman na ba niya ang exam. Pero pag nahuman na niya ang exam, mag-post lang ko og updates dito sa Schoology ha, kung unsa ang type sa exam o pila ka items para kabalo sad mo. Kay dili man ninyo siya teacher. Inform gihapon ta mo. Ako lang sa siyang i-follow up kung nahuman na ba siya og buhat. Let's stop there.